everyone, Tony D and Little Joan here with a beer virus update. And I have to be very careful because they are cracking down on YouTube. Treasury Secretary minimizes risk of inflation caused by beer virus or relief package. I disagree. Janet Yellen said the greater risk was not strengthening the economy as it recovers from the impact of the pandemic. That doesn't work. I don't know how many times people in power have to keep doing this to have it not work. You can't just keep borrowing money. You can't. I mean, I guess you can until the economy collapses, but this is inflation brought about by the fact that nothing backs our money. Nothing. Our money is based completely on faith now. It's been completely disconnected from silver, gold, anything. The only thing it's backed by is that we run the world. And the clock is ticking on that. Yeah. So, and the other thing, of course, is the Saudis only take dollarunos for their oil. But they could stop. Then what are you going to do? What are you going to do if the Saudis say, we're not going to take the oil? What if they run out of oil? What if somebody bombs the F out of them? Any of that could totally screw us. Janet Yellen is just another in a long line of Treasury secretaries trying to push the can down the road. And she'll probably succeed. And if she does, she can thank Trump for creating a strong enough economy to withstand some of this. That's the only reason you might see things not totally fall apart. Although Biden's trying. He's trying to I think they're trying to push for the collapse of the dollar. Because most of these elites, they don't have their money in the United States. They get their money in other things. They're not going to have their money in dollars. But they don't understand what they'll do. They think, we'll be great, No, it'll be an absolute nightmare, and these people will lose. They won't lose as much as we'll lose, but they'll lose. So they're very stupid for doing this. But they're also very greedy and arrogant and don't think anything bad can happen to them. Vaccine passports, will they be available in the U.S. in time for summer, asked NBC News. I don't care, because I'm not getting one. This vaccine card, you're trying to normalize this. This is going to end up in the Supreme Court. It's going to end up tossed out. Now, that doesn't mean when foreigners come to your country or you go to a foreign country, they can't demand some proof of your vaccination. But to demand proof of the beer virus vaccination, it makes no sense. It's endemic. It's going to be like the flu. They've already announced that, I think it's endemic. Yeah, you're not going to be able to wipe it out. So every year you're going to have beer virus. Just like you're going to have the flu and influenza. With any luck, it will continue to get weaker and weaker, and it won't mutate into a strong virus that kills a bunch of people. It's stronger than some of these other viruses now, but hopefully with all the money they're throwing at it and the vaccinations, that will help. But, the studies require time. And in the meantime, they're just crushing economies. Still, in my view. Just my view, YouTube. I'm not saying anything that's untrue. I'm just responding to the news. Atlanta neighborhood moves to secede as crime spikes. Plans its own police force amid 80% surge in murders citywide. Wow. That's insane. And most of that can be put right on the pandemic. Because it's, there's a Democratic mayor in Atlanta, and the Georgians apparently are desperate to become, a blue state. How's that working out for you? Working out good? I've been to Atlanta a bunch of times, and it was a great city. I wouldn't go there now. It had some issues, even when I thought it was cool. But people centralize this power and it corrupts them. And, no one talks about the little girl who was killed in one of the riots, shot by a BLM protester. But they'll talk on and on about that poor guy at Wendy's who was, I don't know if I should call him a poor guy at Wendy's. He lost his mind and grabbed an officer's weapon. You don't talk about him anymore. Probably because that was crossing a line. That was crossing a big line. But at the time, it was like, oh my God, another shooting. It wasn't unjustified. There are shootings that are justified. But this crime spike can be directly attributed, I think, to the pandemic. Simple as that. And, really the response of the pandemic. Locking people down. People are going out of work. Businesses are going out. More crime. More unemployment creates more crime. More desperation creates more crime. You got to stop. I mean, Trump's out of office. When are you going to stop? Fauci warns of new beer virus surge, urges Trump to promote vaccine. Trump's out of office, dude. Why don't you urge Biden to promote vaccines? He is, in his own desperate plea, please obey this old man. Oh, wear a mask, and maybe by summer you could have a hot dog with a friend. Zero Hedge starts the article. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert and the highest paid federal employee in the country, is on another Sunday media junket. Yeah, he loves to be on TV. Telling Fox News' Chris Wallace that the new wave of beer virus infections could be on their way, and urged former President Trump to start promoting vaccines to his followers. Europe always seems a few weeks ahead of us, Fauci said. This is all speculation. It's no better than me. I mean, it's all speculation. Based on what? Okay, yeah, Europe has been ahead of us on some things. And that would be reason to, I don't know, screen people coming in and out of Europe, but you're not doing that. Nobody's doing anything sensible, in my view, for the beer virus. It's also kind of hopeless because it is endemic. So what are you going to do? I mean, you couldn't lock down and vaccinate enough people to wipe it out. You can merely mitigate it. But if you mitigate it at the cost of destroying your own economy, that's going to cascade into other problems. And it already has. These blue states, including mine, we've lost something like 43% of restaurants in New Jersey. I believe the number was 43 at the time. And that was pretty much speculation. That was a few months ago. There are shuttered businesses everywhere, for sale and for rent signs everywhere in New Jersey now. It looks like the time of Obama. And that's the way it was under Obama. You can't keep taxing people and then handing them money and expecting the economy to recover. What you need to do is unburden people. Don't tax anybody. Let people build businesses. Just shut off all these regulations and permits and whatnot, and let people run wild and do things. They'll fix it. And there'll be mistakes and people will get ripped off. That's already happening. You've driven the economy underground again. And here's, a news headline you could have predicted. Pelosi blames Trump duh, for humanitarian crisis at the border and says Biden is trying to correct the broken system as detention facilities overfill by 700% and ICE sets up outdoor processing centers to deal with record numbers pouring in. How is it Trump's fault that record numbers of immigrants are pouring into the country? Trump strengthened the border. Biden closed building the wall and essentially invited everyone in with his policies. How's that Trump? The facilities are already at 700% capacity, and it's just starting. You people bitched and moaned about Trump having kids in cages. Well, now you've got all the detention centers filled. They're not even detention centers. They're the cages. Who built the cages, Nancy? Ugh. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the exponentially growing southern border crisis is not President Joe Biden's fault, instead blaming Donald Trump for handing down a broken system. He absolutely did not. You cannot sustain that lie. No sane person would agree with that. How is the system broken? He poured more money and effort and time than any president in my lifetime on the border. That was one of his main things. He poured money in it. And you're saying the system's broken? No, you're breaking the system. You're undoing everything he did. And you didn't have to. You could have just pretended like, well, there's nothing we could do. You could have done that. But you want to depress wages for your corporate friends, right, Nancy? And what does this have to do with beer virus? Well, these people aren't being screened. They're pouring in, and they could have the beer virus with them. They're not going to go get a jab. No way. They're illegal. It's illegal for them to be here. Now, in a few months or years, they might start getting vaccines because they'll be comfortable and understand that, oh, right, Trump's not in charge, so all the various policies have been undone. But they may not be totally following that. They're from Mexico. They may not be totally up on the news. Detention and immigration processing facilities are dangerously overcrowded, reaching over 700% capacity. This is the Daily Mail reporting this. This isn't some right-wing rag. This is a left-wing rag, in my view. So, you guys did this. You opened the border to these people, and now you've got a real problem on your hands. You can't say that you're worried about the virus and let untold numbers of undocumented people who haven't been tested into the population, while at the same time you can't blame Trump for a system that he was trying to strengthen and that you fought him at every step of the way. Who believes you, Nancy? This is a total cluster F. Children at one facility in South Texas are going hungry and are only able to shower once every 7 days, as the center is at 729% of its legal capacity. You people are torturing them. They would be better off not here than stuck in a facility. Lord knows what's going on there. You can't run a facility when it's at that it's ridiculously overfilled. You cannot run it like this. You have to send these people back. You could have left them in their home country. Instead, you flooded the facilities and you cannot handle it. Are you stupid? Yes, you are. FEMA was sent in on Saturday night to help, with surge of unaccompanied migrant children arriving in the U.S. Oh, good. Those idiots. What are they going to do? Put them in a van that smells like formaldehyde? I'm sorry, a trailer. That's what they used in Katrina during Bush's era, by the way. The FEMA was a total F up of a system. Although Trump probably fixed it up pretty good. I wouldn't count on Biden. Lord knows who he put in charge of it. Probably somebody with pink hair, super woke, who's trying to make sure that they have exactly the same number of people of races in their organization, because that's important. Joe Biden and members of his administration have failed to call the situation a crisis despite being slammed by members of both parties. Yeah, so not only are the Republicans criticizing you, but your own party members are criticizing you, and you're still effing it up. And Nancy Pelosi comes out to defend them. The president has a more open border approach than his predecessor, I'll say, saying that all those seeking asylum will be granted it in the U.S., leading to a massive wave of migrations by way of Mexico. You didn't have to say that. Or if you were going to say it, it could have been one of your broken promises. You could have just said, we can't undo the border restrictions. Sorry, we thought we could. But the people who are coming in, there's a way to get around it. But understand that their goal is to get as many migrants in here as possible. They don't care that people are suffering at the border in these facilities, spreading their virus germs potentially. So you can't have it both ways. If there's a pandemic, why are you letting foreigners into the country who are unscreened? Even if you say, well, we won't let anybody out until we screen them, in the meantime, other diseases could break out with that many people jammed into a facility, on top of the fact you've got people who guard them and run the facility, and you're going to have to screen them, and it's a big mess. You've created a big mess that you didn't have to create. You could have left these people at the border of Mexico instead of doing it all. And here's what happens. 15 people shot, 2 dead at party in Chicago. Total of 30 shootings in Chicago this weekend. Why? Well, the pandemic's still going on there. They're not selling liquor in Chicago, according to what I read on Chicago's website. They stopped the sale of liquor. So this was a party, and the shots rang out around 4:41 a.m. A legal party? Probably a bunch of people who said, F this, we've been locked down, we don't have any jobs, there's nothing to do, we're going to have a party. Things got out of hand, people got drunk, pulled out guns, blam, blam, blam. You wouldn't have this issue if you opened up the businesses, because some of these people would be working, couldn't stay up to 4:41 a.m. for a party. Businesses would be open. You could get booze at a decent hour. You wouldn't have to go to a speakeasy. What is that called? South Side, I guess the club is called. I don't know if it's a club or what or where it happened. But this is going to happen more and more. People are still going to live their lives. People are still going to have parties. It already happened in New Jersey. They arrested a bunch of people because they were essentially running an illegal bar. And they were making money. I'm telling you, the mafia is doing this. All the organized crime families are into this because there's money in it. And as long as things are locked down, there will be money in it. So if you want to get loaded, and hey, if you're going to sell booze illegally, you might as well sell gambling, you might as well sell prostitutes, because you won't control this. You've created a black market economy. It's going to be a boom for organized crime. And then those profits are used to commit more crimes, to sell more drugs, to bribe more officials, to corrupt the police, and on and on and on. This is how things grew during Prohibition. And then the mafia took their proceeds when Prohibition was over, and they knew it was over. They took their proceeds and they invested in Las Vegas and Teamsters, and they had so much money lying around, they were able to just jump into other businesses, and it corrupted all kinds of places for decades after. I mean, you're talking the peak of mafia power nationally, I'm talking. I'm not trying to denigrate anybody's family, but nationally, if you look at nationally, right around the 70s, and then, between the 70s and the 80s, you had guys flipping, you had Gotti getting pressured, and people had to consolidate, and the crimes were, they were really grinding on the mafia guys, and the families were, under a lot of pressure, so they couldn't expand. I think they shrank to some degree, and I'm not saying they're not dangerous or whatever. They are very dangerous, but they don't have the power they did. They have lots of power, and they're still a secret organization in a lot of respects, so who knows what they have. I could be totally wrong about this, but the point is, this makes them stronger, because this is something they can profit on, and they can profit a lot on it, because I guarantee you there were plenty of other places that didn't get busted, because they'll just grease the wheels, and these cops are more than likely to take bribes, because you've got a movement to defund them. So if you're a cop and you got no job security, you don't want to patrol any of the neighborhoods where You might get into an altercation because you'll be videotaped and called a racist and driven out of them. You know, what hope do you have of retirement? But wait, if I take these bribes, I make a little nest egg for myself and then quietly retire. Yeah. That's what's going to happen. That's what probably is happening. And it's all thanks to the lockdown, the response from the pandemic. I say all you need is what I've said since the beginning. Lock down the nursing homes. Put your money there. People who are vulnerable, make sure they get vaccinations. Make sure they're isolated from the rest of the population. The rest of the population is at such a low risk. You just need to tell them to wash their hands, maybe wear a mask in a crowded situation, and social distance. That's it. That's all you can do. You could tell them to get a vaccine too, but, you know, at this point, I don't know if the tests are that effective. They had to undo the PRC test. So they finally admitted there were too many false positives. Wonder why. So what is the CDC and the WHO? What good are they? The WHO is too much connected to China, and they've got political reasons to keep things locked down here. And the CDC went woke last year, I think. Lord knows what their priorities are now. So it's only these state governments. You look at Florida, you look at South Dakota, and then you say to yourself, look at Sweden. They're all fine. I'm not saying this disease doesn't exist. It does. I'm not saying it's not serious. It is serious. I've known people who have died from it. It's bad. I don't want to get it. But, you know, to destroy the economy, to keep people locked in their homes, it's just not going to work. Lockdowns do not work. The CDC said lockdowns should only be used in the most extreme cases. Is this an extreme case where you have an over 99% chance of surviving? Is that extreme? If that's extreme, there's a lot of things that are extreme. I'm Tony D. That's Little Joan, and hopefully this video won't get banned.